decent people amongst you. That is powerful stuff. That is Deepak Chopra. Everybody knows who he is. He is signed there. He's got enough people. Martin Lindstrom is the most expensive marketing speaker on the circuit. 10 times as much as me. And what is he talking about? Subliminal advertising. He's explaining to them how Obama came into power, you know, all the politics that we're going to have. That thing there is very, very, very convincing. And that thing there is saying, you guys are doing it. Unilever's doing it, they said, Coke is doing it. It's dangerous, dangerous, dangerous stuff. You need to sign it a little bit. Yeah. That is a website. That's one that he quoted. It's Commercial Alert. You know what Commercial Alert did? One of the universities, I'm not quite sure which one, it is there in the text, had this expensive fMRI machine. To sort of generate a little bit of flow, they said, okay, we'll allow one of the commercial companies, one of the FMCG companies, to come and use it. And they're going to pay us for it, so we have a bit of a cash flow. Commercial Alert got to hear about that. They went to the Congress. They said to the Congress, these guys are using it so that all our children are going to eat McDonald's burgers. You've got to stop it. And the way to stop it is withdraw all funding from the university. You know what the university did? They stopped it. So already the Commercial Alert is out there. They are talking to the FBI. These guys are serious. So the problem really is the marketing of neuromarketing. And very much so, not one was started by a person that knows anything about marketing. It does not come out of the marketing traditional research community. A.K. Pradeep, that you saw, is an engineer. The claims that he makes about his company, listen to them. They are engineering claims. They oversimplified marketing. If you read his book, suddenly comes out with these big marketing insights. We've always had that. Lindstrom, subtitle to biology, how everything we knew about why people buy is wrong. You know, everything we've known is wrong. Can't be. You wouldn't be sitting here if we didn't have the knowledge. But these guys are making claims. They are really going to create a lot of problems. So, now that we know what the problems are, the Advertising Research Foundation is onto that. The Millard Brown, because we are approached daily by people. Before I came, the week before I came, I had an email from a marketing professor in Stellenbosch University in South Africa. Says, I now have the exclusive rights for one of these things. I'd like to come and form an association with Millard Brown. I sent him an email. I said, you know, I get these sort of contacts on a monthly basis. They're all out there. He thought this is a new thing. Millard Brown had investigated, but we're not the only company that had to investigate. Keep your eye on this website. ARF's developer standards for neuromarketing research. Okay, they're into developing standards. They've done their first bit of work. They presented it in May this year, and I'm going to show you two. And these are all clients speaking, I think. I'm going to show you.
We're going to start with just a little bit of clarification, a little bit of a qualifier. The reason that we have to do this is because there are two different versions of neurostandards, of the Neurostandards Initiative, that are floating around amongst you. So we just want to clarify so everybody knows, so you don't confuse the two. When the ARF launched into this initiative, it invited many of the vendors who have biometric and neuromeasure methodologies to participate in the validation study that we're talking about today. 8 companies took up that challenge. 2 did not, and that's fine. However, one of those 2 then decided to launch their own initiative, which is also fine. But then they called that initiative 5 days later after the announcement. They announced it and they called it the same thing, the Neurostandards Initiative. So there is now some confusion So we just want to clarify that the ARF Neurostandards Initiative is actually different from NeuroFocus's Neurostandards Initiative. And so we just say that so there won't be any confusion in the room about that. Now, but I'm here today to talk to you about the ARF's Neurostandards Initiative. So this is a very exciting opportunity, which I look forward to talking about. Last year at this time, I spoke before you talking about a challenge that we had at the Disney Labs. And the challenge was that we were getting pitched business by a lot of different neuro vendors, and we did not know how to properly assess the different claims that were being made. And on that basis, we issued a challenge to the ARF, which they took up, to launch into some type of a validation study that could explore that. And I shared with you Arthur C. Clarke's third law, which is that any sufficiently advanced technology is indistinguishable from magic. And with many things in life, that's what we want. We want the magic. We love technology because it's magic. But the minute we enter into the arena of science, and this was my response to that, by its very nature, science must be distinguishable from magic. And so if we want to call this science, then we have to have some process for review so that we can make sure that the things that we're being told, in fact, actually do say what we think they say. And this is a normal part of the discourse of science. So the background to this collaboration really was, of course, there is growing popularity around many of these new neuromarketing measures. That's a very exciting prospect, particularly because it's giving us access to very different kinds of measures, exploring things like emotion, etc., which we're very excited about. There's great promise, but there was also great concern. And how could we then engage in a process which helped tease out some of those differences? People who are 21 plus. But basically, we took 8 ads from these gold sponsors, and we gave them to all 8 participants in the the vendors. And we said, now go ahead and do what you normally do and come back and report exactly what you find. Now, what was amazing, I think, about this project is that we had a really wide range of methods through these vendors that was available for the review process. There were a number of vendors who used different approaches to facial coding, studying and analyzing facial muscle movement. We had a vendor who did biometrics, looking at different type of biometric measurements, including skin conductivity, heart rate, etc. Looking at EEG measures, SST, which is a derivative of the EEG methodology, steady-state topography, and fMRI. And we actually
was the piece of creative which was assessed by these 8 vendors. And these are some of the findings we got back. And as you can imagine, we had pre-tested this. And so some of the findings we got back were reinforcements of what we learned. So for example, most of these vendors thought the advertising would be good. And I put it that way because in fact what they defined as good varied quite considerably between the individual vendors. So there were some people who were picking out elements that would make it good and others picking out different aspects. Several identified that the germ scan, that little sort of passage, generated a response. But they weren't always able to say whether that response was positive or negative. They knew it generated a response. And so some people interpreted that as being a positive thing and some interpreted it as being a bad thing. About half of the vendors identified that 12 hours were working well, but conversely, about half of them didn't pick up that the 12 hours was working well. So you begin to see that across 8 vendors there was not a whole lot of consistency. In some areas there was, but differences. Some of the new learning, there was a lot of comments that the branding would be very good. And you may know I work for Colgate, so you can probably recognize it as a Colgate ad, but our initial in-market testing actually had suggested the branding wouldn't be very good, and our tracking data also endorsed that. We've made some changes and it's now working very well. One of the most interesting new learnings we actually found out about was the opening piece, when the woman sort of steps into the camera and asks, "What did you brush with?" That generally got a lot of comments back from these vendors to say that that generated an emotional response. That's quite intrusive, and that wasn't something we had picked up at all in our previous testing. Having said that, some of the vendors would then say, but your characters are very warm and inviting, and some of them said your characters aren't really going to resonate with your target audience. So again, they were interpreting the information received in different ways. And nobody contextualized the fact that this piece of advertising didn't feature Brooke Shields, and Brooke Shields had been our spokesperson for about 10 years, and I think I'll comment upon that and whether the companies really understood perhaps communication strategy that we had been adopting.